Chakri Lokapriya as well joins in on the show right now. Chakri, hi. Good afternoon already. It's Saturday, so we're a little displaced on what's the time of the day. Can't complain really after that fabulous Friday. Clearly, the momentum's intact.
Good afternoon. Yes, unfortunately working on a Saturday afternoon, but what do? At least it's a good day for the markets. And I think that trend will continue because, now we are probably closer to an interest rate peak in the US. And therefore, as and when the rate starts falling, it'll lead to the interest rates coming down in India and also leads to an earnings upgrade for the overall market and individual companies naturally. And that will sustain and actually add to valuations and help the markets go higher.
Okay, so that's the momentum that we're talking about for the markets right now, and it's going good. Individual names, Suven Pharma or Aurobindo Pharma, as we highlighted earlier, Zentek, Netweb Technologies, Data Patterns. So all of these companies which are expecting the trickle-down orders of defense as well to come by. Ethos is the other ones, Phenolix Cables, Westlife. All of these stocks are in focus on the upside. In fact, that's the next question, Chakri. We saw the auto data that came by, and at least there were signs that the mass market or the rural market might also be seeing signs of uptick, or maybe it was just a case that the expectations were on the lower side. But do you see that happening soon, and is it time to start making those bets on the mass recovery?
Many of the consumer discretionary stocks have not done well over the last 1 year due to well-telegraphed reasons such as slowdown in spending. The big government's push in infrastructure, defense, railways, etc. One of the beneficiaries of that is also the rural, because half the rural household actually is not on farming, but they're working as construction workers across the chain. We up to the midpoint of the chain maybe, and that will drive consumer consumption other than staples. And I think so that's a trend which will clearly continue because government capex is going to continue. Corporate capex is going to pick up. So I think, yes. And also there's some to talk about the summer will be hot. If that's good, if it is so, then companies like Voltis will benefit.
Point taken. Chakri, we have been debating on the channel about the possibility of that Supreme Court order on the entire hospital space, that they're looking at standardization of the prices of certain procedures. We've heard from, many parties, right, from an insurance company to a hospital player, to, of course, the Indian Medical Association as well. What's your view? Is this something which is actually possible to do? And secondly, this dip that we had seen on account of that, should one use this as a buying opportunity, or will the overhang continue?
Probably the overhang will continue a little bit, but it's not only an unreasonable request or rather directive, but not implementable. If you look at India, hospital beds per thousand is a decimal figure of something about 5 versus if you take a country like Taiwan, Korea, it's about 120, and versus global averages, we are abysmally low. So, so private hospitals are coming and filling the space, and so trying to compare their cost of capital to a government hospital's cost of capital is just an apples and oranges comparison, and therefore, and the facilities they provide and the whole 9 yards. So therefore, I think it's unimplementable in the current form, but the overhang will remain until there's more clarity, some kind of clarification that comes from the courts.
Yeah, okay, so there are quite a few stocks like Nalco, Hindustan Copper, JSPL, Tata Steel that Kunal is recommending a buy on. Chakri, what about you? Is this just one of those one-day moves of sorts in metals? It has been a couple of days now, but just a transient move, or there is something that you can, make as an investment idea as well?
Valuations on the metal stocks, both large and mid-cap, are very reasonable. If you look at Tata Steel, trades at probably about 5 times, Nalco trades at about 5 odd times. And therefore, in an upcycle, these valuations will move. They're one of the first beneficiaries as interest rates start coming down. Their costs of doing business goes down, and therefore the multiples move up. So we're still very early in that cycle. I think therefore metals as a cycle, as a sector will do well. Tata Steel looks good, Nalco looks good. Even the smaller names, companies like Lloyd's, Metal and Energy, they also look good because they trade at far lower multiples.
But if I can come to you, Naresh, on a couple of these names, Data Patterns, Intellect Design and Sobha, will the momentum continue on the upside in the coming week?
So technically, the momentum looks pretty strong in all of these names. So out here, data patterns has seen very large volumes over in this move from 1900 to 2600 odd levels. So the trend is still positive. It's just that risk reward at current levels is difficult to take. So it is a hold. SOBA on the other hand gave a fresh breakout out of a flag pattern at 1500. So that looks promising. This could continue in the trend overall. So I would like SOBA at current levels.
That's a view coming in on some of these names. But let's look for the BTST idea. And if there's anything that, Kunal, you would want to recommend as a buy today, sell tomorrow?
So it'll be more or less the same. Hindustan Copper, very bullish on the stock at current levels, expecting a target of 300 plus and a stop loss to be kept at 270. I'll go with an offbeat name, Triveni Turbine. That's a stock which has been doing pretty well. So I think at 500 plus where the stock is trading right now, would look out for at least another 40 points to be added from current price, which means 550 approximately as a target. Stop loss to be kept at 495.
Yeah, Triveni Turbine has been having a lot of positive news flow to back its story as well. Naresh, if I can come to you and ask you if you have any recommendations as a BTST or STBT trade?
So I would continue to like more of the banking names. So that is where we've not seen any follow-up price action in the ICICI Bank and Axis Bank. We've seen more action on the steel side. So I'll go long on ICICI Bank and Axis Bank for BTST.
Okay, so banking names are the favorite. Chakri, what is happening within pharma? And I'm not talking about diagnostics and healthcare, but I'm talking about pure play pharma players, because there were recent reports talking about how CDMO business can completely turn around. Of course, the price erosion in US has actually stabilized a bit. Domestic demand is also picking up. Where within pharma do you still see value?
Pharma as a sector has run up, but still, Dr. Reddy corrected recently on some news about some litigation in the US, but its pipeline is very strong. US pricing is strong, at least it's picking up. And therefore, I think given all that, Dr. Reddy still looks okay. And so does Lupin. Lupin looks okay, but these are stocks which will steadily compound. They're not one of those ones which can have any significant, they'll be market performers at best.
Okay, so market performers at best. But Chakri, then what could be that outsized bet that you want to take right now to outperform the market? Sectors, themes, stocks, anything that comes to mind?
Consumption as a sector has not done so well. So therefore, looking for stocks there. For example, a stock like Eureka Forbes. It's both, for a health perspective and as well as, with the water sanitation, bed gaining a lot of significance and a lot of government contracts. It's gone through a management change, it's been acquired, and its fundamentals are looking stronger. So companies like that, which have not done that well fundamentally due to various reasons, but are now mending, consumption is picking up, I think should do well.
What about infrastructure as a theme? Because with elections around the corner, that theme also tends to be on the minds of people. So apart from L&T, let's say an IRB infrastructure or ways to play it in terms of, let's say, an action construction equipment, etc. Anything that you would want to flag out in that basket?
L&T clearly will do well for infra, given that, they're one of the biggest companies out there. Dilip Bilcon is well positioned. Nagarjuna Constructions is well positioned. These companies are now branching out into just other than mainstream infra. They're also getting into, like, for example, smart metering in the power sector, Nagarjuna Construction, that is. So those kind of branches have a huge growth curve, and they have an inherent advantage of being in the infra space.
Mm-hmm. Would you recommend people to probably, Chakri, book profits out of real estate and hotels?
Hotels as a space, I think, has done well. Some of the bigger names like Indian Hotels and all have already run up. But I think if you look at the most recent announcement from Chalet Hotels, there's still so much growth that is still out there. So I would continue to hold on to these stocks and look down the chain, for example, the smaller hotels like the Park Hotels, which has about 30 odd hotels, and some are owned, some are leased. Valuations are far cheaper than an Indian Hotels or a Chalet Hotels. So I think that as a space will continue to do well.